the Yoruba people actually do not have any problem within Nigeria. The problem of the Yoruba people within Nigeria is the Yoruba people. Any problem we have in Nigeria is self-imposed. Any problem the Yoruba people have in Nigeria is a self-destructive chain reaction that we set up of ourselves. Our children are always hating themselves. We've seen Yoruba people, people born with Yoruba parents, Edo parents, half Igbo, half Yoruba, half Hausa, half Yoruba, half Fulani, half Yoruba, half thief, half Yoruba. But if you observe in all these marriages and the product of those such marriages, 9 out of 10, they don't show hatred towards their other side. So why is it that it is people who have mixed parentage and they are part of the Yoruba race that their hatred, prejudice is always towards the Yoruba race? And that shows weakness. It shows a decadence. It shows a declining civilization that is already happening amongst the Yoruba people. What we are seeing is 40, 50 years of socio-engineering of the Yoruba race towards extinction. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Once again, anywhere you're listening to us, I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I greet you all in the name of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. It is the anniversary of 140 years of the Berlin West African Conference. 140 years ago, the European powers sat down and on the table. And this particular important meeting 140 years ago took place in Germany, in the capital of Germany, Berlin, Germany. And what was being discussed at this level? What was discussed at this level was, how are we going to break Africa into pieces? They didn't care about our obas. They didn't care about our sultans. They didn't care about the indigenous kingdoms that have been existing for thousands of years within the continent of Africa. They had invented a powerful weapon, automatic guns, machine guns. They perfected the instrument of warfare. We were still fighting, defending ourselves with bow, arrows, sword, cavalry. They've invented the modern, it was like the nuclear weapon of those times. And they decided, because they wanted to industrialize, it was the age of massive industrialization. They needed raw materials. They needed slaves. They needed land. They needed taxes. They needed to expand their hegemony. They needed to craft the world, they forged the world in their own image and likeness. And they were thinking, what do we do with Africa? Because what happened was, the different colonial powers started fighting over pieces of land in Africa. The Germans were fighting the English, the French were fighting the Germans, the Spanish were fighting the Portuguese were fighting the Germans. Everybody wanted a peace. And they sat down and said, we don't need to fight ourselves. We don't need to kill ourselves, because we want to be about these natives. And what do? They let us draw a map and take up territories, and we are going to possess that territory. And that was what happened. The only European power that could not get anything from that particular deal, like it was Italy. Italy was given that area of Somalia and Ethiopia. But Italy took up guns and ammunition thinking they could conquer Ethiopia. Ethiopia defeated them at the Battle of Adowa. That was how Ethiopia was not colonized by Italy. But the rest of Africa was taken up by the European powers. And they used the sweat and resources of Africa in order to forge Africa into what it is. We are speaking English language today as the official language of Nigeria because of the 1884 Berlin West African Conference. We are called Nigerians today because of the 1884 Berlin West African Conference. What happened to the Yoruba people? Because we are going to be speaking about what happened to us as a race at the 1884 Berlin West African Conference. What happened to us was that at the 1884 Berlin West African Conference, the Yoruba homeland, the entire contiguous land that is called Yoruba land, was broken into pieces. And when they broke it into pieces, the Germans broke it into three powerful pieces. The Germans took the Yoruba part of Togo, and the French took the Yoruba part, which we now call Benin Republic, formerly called Dahomey, and the English took the Yoruba part of Nigeria, which we now call Nigeria. We still call Nigeria. So that was how Yoruba land was broken into three. That is why we have Yoruba people that are French speaking, that you find them in Benin Republic. And you are a Yoruba man and you find yourself in Nigeria. It was because of that injustice of 1884 that made your siblings to be cut away from you. That is why you are going, when we say things, you are going to see the Yoruba man of Benin Republic, and you are going to see him as a foreigner compared to you as a Yoruba man of Nigeria. The only people who understood the dangers of the 1884 Berlin West African Conference in Nigeria, there are just two: the Fulanis and the Kanuris. You saw what this man said, the former president of Nigeria. He said, how can you, he said it while he was the president of Nigeria. Like, there's no difference between the Yorubas when they were trying to challenge why he was building railway to Niger Republic. He said there's no difference between the Hausa Fulani of Niger and the Hausa Fulani of Nigeria. He understood geopolitics. That was why when there was a coup d'etat in Niger Republic, and ECOWAS was pushing Nigeria to invade Niger Republic to go and quote unquote restore democracy, we saw what the Arewa Consultative Forum, El-Rufai came out. The entire powers that be in the corners came out. If you attack Benin Republic, if you attack Niger Republic, you are declaring war on the entire Hausa Fulani and the corners of Nigeria. President Tinubu, being a Yoruba man, quickly withdrew. If you observe, the only time the African border was officially changed was around 2010, 2011 to 2012, when South Sudan was created out of Sudan, and that was done with the consent of the European powers, breaking part of the Yoruba land of West Africa into three parts, where the Yorubas of Togo became German speakers, the Yorubas of France, of Benin Republic, became French speakers, and the Yoruba became English speakers. So sometimes many of us don't understand why anybody in his right senses, in his right frame of mind, is going to say that English language is superior to the Yoruba language. Wow, it's just, and we also want so that means the Yorubas of Benin Republic will also believe that English language, French language is superior to the Yoruba language. If not for after the First World War, after the First World War, and Germany lost the First World War, was why Togo ceased to be a German-speaking country, and it became a French-speaking country. So it's extremely important for us to know where we're coming from. And this particular event took place 140 years ago. 140 years ago was when this particular event took place. Our future was shaped, and new countries was formed in Africa. New countries was formed in Africa. And if you observe, every single country in the Middle East was created by European powers. I'm going to repeat it. Every single country in the Middle East, all your countries was made in Europe. Nigeria was made in Berlin.